This episode of the Stickers and Scuffs podcast is presented by our friends at Quick Wick Fire Starter. Quick Wick is the world's best fire starter. All you need when building your campfire is Quick Wick. Light it, and in seconds, you'll get a perfect campfire, and you don't even need to add paper or kindling. Quick Wick uses all natural materials that are made right here in Canada. This product has been used by our very own Graydon Bunn and the entire Bunn family when they camp, and it's been so good that their friends and family use it as well. Don't worry about the wet weather either, because Quick Wick can light even when it's wet. Make sure you get a pack of Quick Wick in your pack for when you're camping and in your survival kit. Visit quickwick.com for where you can purchase it. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Stickers and Scuffs podcast. Cam K, Graydon Bunn, and our good friend from TSN and the Outlaw Midgets series, Dave Bradley, returns to the show. Dave, it has been a hot minute since you've been on the show. Welcome back.
It really has. Thanks very much for having me, guys. My pleasure.
Well, we couldn't end the season without talking with you because you've been a really busy guy. Obviously, you're doing the races for the NASCAR Pinty series, but once again, competing in the Outlaw Midgets series, and I feel a little out of whack here. I'm surrounded by Outlaw Midget racers that have competed in the division. So, for my own knowledge here, Dave, what is different between an Outlaw Midget and the Can-Am Midgets?
There's a ton of differences between the two cars. Yeah, there is. It may not look it from the outside, but when you really get down to the nitty gritty, the main difference, of course, is suspension versus non-suspension. So the Outlaw Midgets are really an entry-level class getting into oval track midget car racing. They're called a flat bottom because they have no suspension at all. So essentially, they're a go-kart with a roll cage. As I always say, when you age, you get a cage, right? So when you tip over, if you tip over, at least you have some protection. But it does have all the safety features of any sort of big car. But also the TQ Midgets run a bigger engine. They run a motorcycle engine, 750 cc's, I believe. And we run a 440 cc snowmobile engine with a CVT drive. So essentially what you see in a snowmobile comes out of that, goes onto our race car, and we go racing. With some tweaks. Of course, the rule book is a little bit open in that, so you can make some changes and make some power. But essentially, when you get the car dialed in and when you get confidence as a driver, you can turn lap times. I mean, we just finished up at Sunset Speedway for day one of the Velocity. Unfortunately, day two got rained out, but we were turning lap times comparable to a super stock at a fraction of the cost, if you think about it. So, a tenth of what you would spend on a super stock, you could spend on an Outlaw Midget and come out and race and have a lot of fun.
You guys, Bradley Brothers Racing, tell us a little bit about it. How long have you guys been going at it, and how have you built your program up over the years, Dave?
been about 9 years now, and I know that because my son is 9 years old. So I got it right when my wife was pregnant, and I think she probably made a mistake when she was pregnant. She's like, "You got to get one of these," and I'm like, "You'll regret saying that. I guarantee it." So yeah, we've been at it for 9 years. So originally, because I was doing Pinty series stuff, we split the driving duties between my brother and I. So when I was able to, I would get in the car, and then he would drive it every other time. But we found it very difficult sort of changing setups up, and we both have different driving styles and things like that. So we could never really get there. We were always sort of, fifth, sixth, that sort of finish. And then, so once he could focus on his own setup, then he started winning races. And then we found another car actually came up. Somebody was getting out and wanted to get rid of it fairly quickly. So reasonably priced, did a lot of work on it, and sort of made it our own. And that's the one that I drive now. So yeah, it's suited to me, and his is suited to him. And we just came off a 1-2 finish for the first time ever at Sunset for Velocity. So for a big race like that to finish 1-2 was really, really cool. My folks were in the stands. My wife was in the stands. My kids were there too. It was really cool to have the whole family there, and everybody to join us in Victory Lane. It was a pretty cool moment for sure.
I'm glad you touched on that, because that's something I wanted to speak to in the limited experience I had in the series. Is just the whole fam comes and they're helping and chipping in any way that they can, and if they're not, they're just there for the support. And then when it comes race time, they're out in the stands cheering you on. I mean, that was the first time I got to feel that feeling in terms of being on the other side of the fence and on the track. But I mean, it's such a good feeling having that. And also you're not breaking the bank doing it too.
Exactly. It is a club. And we like to say that. I mean, it's very much a club atmosphere. Sometimes we'll have potluck dinners after the races. Just everybody, we'll post a thing on Facebook and say, "What are you bringing?" And everybody will bring a dish after the races, and we'll have a little party afterwards. So it is a lot of fun. And you're right. Anytime somebody breaks, that you could be the toughest of competitors on the track, but that person will be right over and saying, "What do you need?" People with a welder in their trailer will come out and say, "Do you need something buzzed together? We can fix it up and get you back out on the track." Because ultimately, I mean, the club and the series wants to put on a good show for the fans, for our sponsors. I mean, we got Canadian Tire of Innisfil, who's been backing us now for a few years. And we want to show the fans what we can do as a club, and we can put on some pretty darn good races. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes you get some mishaps on track because you do get some close racing. It is open wheel competition and things happen. But I mean, ultimately, if you can, if you turn a 15-second, like I did a 15 flat at Peterborough earlier this year, which is a pretty quick time. And it's pretty fun to see when you've got a grouping of cars and they're all doing that and they're dicing inside, outside, looking for room around each other. It's a pretty cool series to be a part of.
That's like when you got, you weren't there the Peterborough race that I ran, but I mean, when, you guys on the lead lap are flying around and hitting your marks and got those things singing, man, those things are flogging it around. I mean, it's impressive to watch, and it's cool how there isn't a ton of adjustability in those cars, yet you can make gains.
Yeah, you really can. So you can adjust wedge. Essentially, you're tweaking the chassis, right? So you're just taking
no suspension.
Exactly. So you're sort of torquing the chassis. You can move the wheels in and out, and that gives you some adjustability. Air pressure is a big thing. You can move your weights around. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. And oftentimes I'll come off the track and I say, I think there's more in the driver than there is in the car. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to change too much because I think it's me. And so I'll go out and turn some more laps and try and get more familiar and more comfortable and push myself rather than pushing the car. And when I feel that I've gone too far and it's still not sticking, I'm like, okay, well, let's make a change. Let's see what we can do to make this a little bit better. That's
a good mentality, actually. That's good driving. I'll put that in the memory bank.
There's obviously several tracks that you guys go to throughout your schedule. Sauble, Peterborough, Sunset, Flamborough. I'm going to just, because you guys are so low to the ground, you're like right there. considerable difference between running at those tracks, or they all kind of feel the same? Or is it like they say the seat of the pants feeling? Well, I would imagine there's no closer seat of the pants than an Outlaw Midget. So in terms of navigating,
when your seat's almost tracks, dragging on the ground.
Right, exactly. Like how much, I guess, while you with going those speeds, turning those corners, how much are you legitimately moving around in there, or is it
not necessarily? Like you're strapped in, you've got a 5-point harness, right? So you are one with the vehicle. But the car moves around a lot. It breaks tracks and it sort of slides out on the back, or worst case scenario, it starts to hop. And that's the problem with these cars, is they get tight and the back end will actually start to bounce. And that's almost like somebody just beating you on the head for a little while until you back off, get it to settle, and you can get going again. So yeah, it's that part of it is frustrating when you get to that element of the setup. But yeah, we're about 1.5 inches off the ground. And that doesn't change, wherever we go. But you do find tracks that are, areas that are rough and areas that are smooth, and you can hunt around, and there are smooth lines around all tracks. And, a track like Sunset, you think, wow, that track is still relatively new. It's going to be very smooth. There are very large sections of it that are pretty rough. I mean, there's a huge cahoot going into turn 1. You go down the backstretch, if you hit it wrong, there's about 3 moguls back there, and then through 3 and 4 there's a bump as well. So it's like you learn all these places. Peterborough is another one where you go into 1 and there's a giant hole into turn 1. The late model guys, they don't feel it. They'll just sort of float over it, get back in the gas. We're hunting around for a smooth way around before you can get back in the gas, go down the backstretch. So yeah, all these different tracks have all their nuances. And it's, I think that's kind of fun too, to find the quick way around and avoid, the holes or the problem areas. And then, just try and trigger a lap. That's a good one.
One of the things in racing that is really hard to find, and when it does happen, is remarkable and really cool to see. And that's when you have a woman that absolutely dominates in a series. And we're lucky enough to, I haven't met her yet personally, but she runs our SNS Deckle and a couple other names that we want to talk about in the series. But we definitely have to throw out our best wishes to Jessica James, who is, I don't know how many win stickers she can fit on that car, because there's not a lot of room left. But
they might start slowing her down.
To be that good in one kind of division. But again, as Graydon pointed out, was willing to help him when he had issues. And you look at that and go, that's character, that's heart. She was just involved in one of the scariest looking wrecks I haven't seen a lot of the Outlaw Midgets, but I have never seen a wreck like that before. Is that type of wreck common, first off? And in terms of viciousness, I'm sure you've been in wrecks before. Where does that kind of rank?
That's way up there. Yeah, it's not a common scene to see a wreck that bad. That was a big one. My brother was if you've seen the video, he's the orange number 53 under the inside of it. And we had a GoPro mounted on the dash too. And so all you could see is just Jessica sort of turning right towards the wall. And as we were sitting on the red flag, he was telling me, because I was leading at the time, so I didn't see any of this happen. I was like, what happened? And he's like, oh, the 2 and the 8 got together and it was big. And so we're all sort of waiting there to think, hopefully she's all right. But you're right. Everything you've heard about Jessica is absolutely true. I mean, she's a fierce competitor. Don't get me wrong. Like she will go to the front, and it's only a matter of time before she gets there. But she, like in the pits, she's helpful, nice, very personable, very helpful, especially with new drivers. If you're struggling, trying to get your car to run, trying to get it up to speed, and she'll come over and help and give you tips. Yeah, absolutely. Like she'll be right there and willing to grow the club and willing to help the club too. So she's been with the club for a long time, and she's always been fast. I mean, she's got a wealth of knowledge behind her as well. She's got solid equipment as well. But yeah, she's a good person, and it was scary to see a hit like that. And I went over and talked to her afterwards, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, I'm not really sure. So that's when she decided she probably should go to the hospital and get checked out. But she did check out okay. She says she'll be back at Flamborough, so we'll be happy to see her back in the field.
Absolutely amazing news to hear that she's okay after such a vicious wreck. We've got two other names, obviously. One, Rob, I don't know if he got this name from the club, Hooligan Harrison.
He's had that one forever. He was an old Thundercar driver. As a matter of fact, when I used to announce at Barrie Speedway, he would come and run Barrie, and I remember Hooligan well for sure. But yeah, no, he's a great guy too.
That guy's a friggin' riot.
He's just a walking party. He is at any time of day. He's having a good time. So not much phases him for sure. But again, another driver, just always happy to have a chuckle and willing to help out too. And that's the same with everybody. I mean, we're just if you need help, just ask. If sometimes it looks like you might be struggling. If you've had a major problem, sometimes a belt breaks or a clutch breaks or something like that, then somebody will probably just walk over and see what's going on and then be like, you need help, you need parts, and so some of us who have been doing it for a long period of time have collected things, right? You collect parts, spare parts, and you got bins in the trailer and stuff like that. And it's just like, do you have an axle? And I'm like, I think I have one that'll work for you, and so you hand it over for the week until they can get a new one. So very much to keep the show going.
Well, the last name that we have is really new to the series. And this is why I want to touch on our buddy Jason Metcalf. Jason got a third place at Velocity. So we're very excited for him, because something you had mentioned earlier, Dave, is exactly his scenario. He was desperate to race. Desperate. He's always wanted to race. He wanted to get back racing. And here it is. Outlaw Midgets, he's getting that opportunity to race. So you said it's easy, it's cost effective. If somebody wants to get involved in the Outlaw Midgets, what is their best course of action?
We're on social media, so we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So the best way to do it is to message through any of those social media avenues. There are a lot of good cars still out there, still for sale at reasonable prices. And if we don't know one on top of mind, we will try and track one down for you, because our goal is to get as many people in the series as well too. So we're working towards that ultimate goal, is to get all these cars that are sitting in barns, to get them out on the track and get them racing, if not every week, then every other week. So at least we can have, bring a good show to the different tracks that we run at, for sure. And to bring a lot of people as well. So yeah, I would say the best avenue is to look us up on any of the social medias. It's Outlaw Midgets. That's pretty much all you have to search in anything, and you'll find us. And send a quick DM or a private message in any of them, and somebody will get back to you pretty quickly, and we'll find you some kind of car, that might fit your budget. Some of them, might need a little bit of work if you're willing to, if you have mechanical aptitude and you want to get something at a more reasonable cost. Some of them will be polished, race ready, go to the front. They're coming off the track as heat race winners or podium finishers, and they're for sale. So I know there's one. Wally Wilson has a championship car sitting in the shop that he's trying to get rid of. And it's a really good piece with a very solid engine on it. So it's available. I think you can get a second car, so two for the price of one.
I think he's got a second one.
So.
Yeah, he does.
So it's Have you been talking to him?
Nothing serious, but I know he does have two cars laying around there.
Oh, Wally's
like you say, you never know with Wally. He's got a whole boneyard, and
totally.
Yeah, you never know what's going to be in that trailer when he rolls the door down.
Absolutely, but that's probably the best way to do it. And again, you look at the cost of tires for a big car series, and you're putting in tires every other week probably. For us, we can run tires 3 or 4 nights. Our biggest cost is fuel. A lot of us still run race gas. We're actually mixing it with sort of cutting it a little bit, so the cost is a little bit more effective. But as long as your motor's not completely tuned, the motor that I run is pretty much a stock Polaris 440. So it doesn't really need race gas. It just does a lot better with temperatures, because you have the leaded gas, and that brings the temperature down. So I don't want to burn it down. I don't want to melt it down. So I'm sure. I run fairly conservative. So yeah, I'm just like, nah, I think I'm okay running a little bit cheaper fuel.
If we're saying that these are what snowmobile engines you said that were in them, when's the Pinty Series snowmobile invitational going to happen there, Dave? I mean, I think you'd have a. Although Andrew Ranger, I'm pretty sure is pretty good on us. So that might.
Yeah, I think he'd be all right.
Yeah. So as and the master of segues that I am.
There you are.
Yeah, I kind of see what you did there.
NASCAR Pinty Series finale is this week at Delaware Speedway, Dave. We obviously talk about it a lot on the show. You are one of the voices with Adam Ross. Adam could not be here tonight, but we've got Dave, who's been with the series now since 2007. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, man, has the time gone, Dave?
Actually, I was with NASCAR before that because I got married in 2007. I was with NASCAR for a couple of years before that. So, yeah, I go back.
You go back ways and ways, but you've been the voice with Adam since, well, you were the voice with Billy.
Yeah, started with Billy.
From 2007 to, 2012, 13, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
You kind of been doing this a long time, Dave.
I know, it's been a long time. I was looking back and I'm like, man, at all the shirts I have in my closet, they're all
to break one out just for you tonight too.
Perfect. Yeah. I love it.
So we've got to ask, Bud, where does this season rank in seasons of the NASCAR Canadian Tire, now Pinty Series?
Oh, it's top notch. I would say it has to rank upwards the top 5. I mean, we don't have the championship battle coming down to the wires we've seen in past seasons. I mean, last year was perfect opportunity to see that, and you see the drama play out in the last couple races at Delaware last year. But this definitely has to rank up near the top. Just what I have loved about the 2022 season is the parity amongst drivers. I mean, you go into a race and you look at the driver entry list and you're like, this is cool. You know, there's like 12 or 13 drivers who have a realistic shot at winning. And then you have, another 5 or 6 who have an off chance at winning if everything goes right for them, or, scenarios play out in different ways. So, I mean, it is just a wonderful season that has been playing out. And it's just the buzz around the series has been the highest. I think the highest I've seen ever. Realistically, coming out of COVID, it was just like everybody wanted to be a part of this series. Everybody all the tracks are asking for the series, want them back. They want dates. And it's just the excitement level is right up there. So I think it definitely has to rank upwards in the top 5 for sure.
Collectively, I mean, for the fan base too, we got to come back last year, but this year was business as usual. Like, fully touring, going out east, way out east, and going out west, and the camping and everything was just, like I say, business as usual. So I think that also helps the feel of the season. Not only do we have, as you say, it's almost atypical for the Pinty Series to have the championship decided, but when you look at the collective, the body of work that is this season, it's been pretty great to watch.
Yeah, it really has. And that was something that came out of GP3R. And you guys know that because you were there, right? For sure. But everybody said that it just, this year hit different than last year. I mean, we got to hold the race last year, but the fans were sort of limited to their stands. They couldn't walk around the paddock area. They couldn't interact with the drivers. And it just wasn't really the same, because the beauty of GP3R is GP3R. I mean, it is just a scene unlike any other. And I've told anybody, even if you don't follow asphalt racing, even if you hate stock cars, and say they don't belong on street circuits, I'm like, you need to go to GP3R. You need to see that event and how it plays out and how the city just gets behind it 100%. It is an event like any other. It's a party. I mean, with a race in the middle.
Literally.
It really was.
So it was cool. And that's the beauty of 2022. And we saw it at CTMP. I mean, the campgrounds were full again. And then you see it at other tracks too. I mean, you go to Newfoundland and how the communities got behind the series there, and it was just like the circus comes to town, and like everybody's wild-eyed and just eager to meet everybody involved with it. So yeah, it was really cool to see sort of a normal here in 2022 with the series.
Just amazing storylines to go with GP3R2. I mean, although it didn't work out great for Jacques Villeneuve, I mean, we had that storyline alone, having an F1 champion coming home to run in the Pinty series, and the Dumoulin brothers as always being a threat. And that weekend, the news dropped that Tony Spiteri took a pretty awesome new position with the series. So going into the off season, not just having an amazing season that we're having this year, but this off season holds more promise, I think, and maybe more activity than we've seen in recent years. Say, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. And with the marketing background that a guy like Tony Spiteri has, you have to think now we're going from tracks where sometimes the race would be held at a certain facility and you wouldn't really see anything. You wouldn't know it was happening until you sort of tripped on it and you were there. Sure, the grandstands are full and everybody's excited, those who are there, but nobody outside of that circle really knew it was happening. And I think it's Tony's goal to sort of broaden that appeal. And as you saw in Newfoundland, as you saw in GP3R, as you see, as you're leading up to other tracks and other races. I mean, Delaware has done a great job at promoting the Pinty's Fall Brawl that's coming up this coming weekend. So it's just to sort of get the buzz on those each individual events. And I think that's going to take it next level for sure. But, take nothing away from Sherry and the job that she's done over the years as well. She's done a really good job, especially on the competition side, because you look at the competition and look at how close it is on the track. So, you take absolutely nothing away from the job that she's done, but it just having somebody like Tony to sort of pick it up from there and then try and take it up to here, I think is going to be super exciting. Absolutely.
It's one thing to be the series director, but then to have to do all the marketing aspect of it as well.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a job that none of us would probably want because it's a lot of work.
Realistically, a full-time job in itself.
It's two full-time jobs, right?
Yeah, essentially.
So,
a lot of people in the industry have day jobs too. So, I mean, you're asking basically one person to maybe wear three different hats professionally, which is a tall task. And yes, to your point, we're saying, great job. I mean, what the series has become on Sherry Putnam's done on her watch is nothing short of admirable, and she's done a great job for the series, and we can't thank her enough for all that she's done for us.
Absolutely.
and for the NASCAR Pinty series as a whole.
We say a girl boss. I mean, the fact that she had to lead a bunch of
moms know how to do it, man.
She had to lead a bunch of drivers and teams that are a bunch of old grumpy guys,
like herding cats.
Yeah,
pretty much, right? And the one thing is, COVID happened, and she led through it. We made it out, and I think we could say for the better. It was looking a little bleak in 2020, but we came out of that, and it's looking even stronger and stronger. I'm gonna ask you, Dave. Obviously, we know the championship is pretty well decided this year, but for you, what was the storyline across all the 13 events that we've had, that we will have had? Obviously, fans being back, crowds being back, but names coming back. We're seeing our Brian Cathcarts come back to the series and run, seeing the battles between him, Wallace Stacey, and Glenn Stiers towards the back of the field's actually been a source of fun, I think.
The race within the race.
For sure.
And they said it was somebody threw it out at the beginning. I think Dexter threw it out before. It was the Gillette Young Guns, but he had Glenn, Wallace, and Brian all together, which I thought was hilarious. But what for you has been the biggest storyline this year?
I would have to point to that team on the top of the point standings, the 96 GM High A team of Marc-Antoine Cameron. So that's a brand new team. And you never see a brand new team come into the series and do as well as they have everywhere. You expect Mark to be great on road courses as a driver. And, he'll hit gold on setup sometimes on a short oval like he did at St. Eustache, picking up a win there earlier in his career. But consistency wasn't his thing, especially on ovals. He showed signs of speed, but he was never quite there right at the end when he needed to be. This year, he's there. He's there each and every week. And just when you think there's no way they can maintain that pace, they maintain that pace, and then they exceed it. So that to me is got to be the surprise of the season, has to be the storyline of 2022, is just the sheer power. I'm not going to say dominance because it wasn't a dominant season. I mean, other drivers reached victory lane. Kevin Lacroix did it 3 times. He was so good on the road and street circuits. You had Trayton Lapsovich visiting victory lane a couple of times as well. So yeah, there was other drivers who had really, really good seasons. It's just the sheer consistency and the power of that number 96 GM Paille team to always be there for a first-year team. It's scary what you can think, what they're going to do next year, year 2, year 3, year 4, maybe year 5. If they stay together, if that core stays together, that could be some team to watch in the future for sure. Absolutely.
And a guy like JC Paille emulates a guy like Rick Hendrick. I mean, that spells maybe some bad news for the competition. I mean,
that's what he wants to be.
Yeah. I mean, there's the passion that he's bringing to his team. It obviously trickles down to everyone that works with JC and Paille Racing, because it sure looks like they're in it for the long haul, and they're trying to build a dynasty here.
Yeah, and that's exciting for the fans, isn't it? I mean, to know that they're committed to the series for the long haul, and potentially adding other players into the series as well around that sort of the key marker that is Marc-Antoine Cameron, and building out from that. I think that's super exciting and fantastic to see for the series. And for young drivers too, it gives them an option when they're coming up too. Because, some of the drivers are looking like, well, I'm running a late model and I don't necessarily have the money to just go out and straight up buy a Pinty Series car. And you're great. You can go to McCall, you can go to White Motorsports, you can buy the car, but you're not buying the experience that comes with setting it up. And that's a difficult animal in itself. So what Paille has done with Robin McCluskey in building chassis there, and that comes with the experience, it comes with the setup and everything else. So if he does branch out the way he sort of wants to do, it gives another sort of step in the ladder for a young driver, maybe somebody out of Quebec, maybe somebody in the late model series in Quebec to step up like an Alex Lebay or an Alex Gannett has done in the past.
It's dangerous, as you said. And we've talked about this. I mean, Graydon and I had this conversation because we know Andrew Ranger would not be in the series if not for JC Paille. That's the reality of the situation. And he ran cars out of WMI this year, but can you imagine if all of a sudden he starts running a Paille chassis? Oh boy, things will be very interesting, because now we're going to have Andrew Ranger in the same equipment. And I don't know what the total, but I think Marc-Antoine Cameron has led around 600 laps this year. And that's nuts in this series. No one even close to the same level. Dave Bradley, of course, leads laps each and every week for TSN for us as part of the lead broadcast with Adam Ross. Dave, thank you for coming on, talking about the Outlaw Midget series. Obviously, you guys aren't done yet. I believe you got one more weekend, correct?
We got 2 more. So we'll be at Flamborough for Frost Fest on the 2nd, and then Fall Colors wraps things up at Peterborough. Yeah.
All right. So make sure you guys go out there, go follow the Outlaw Midgets. Graydon, what do you have to say for our man, Dave Bradley?
Oh man, Dave, it's as always a good time when you pop by, and it's been a while. We won't make it so long next time, but man, we got to hang out with you in Quebec a little bit, and hopefully we'll cross paths at one of those Outlaw Midget race one day. And thanks as always, man. It's always a good
fantastic
time.
I will see you guys at Delaware. I'll come and seek you guys out. Say hello for sure. But thanks. Anytime you want to guest.
I didn't just flip you off there. I'm sorry.
We should leave it at that. Thank you all for tuning in to the Stickers and Scuffs podcast. We'll catch you all next week.